your explainable AI. Thank you. Any questions?
How do you handle like extreme edge cases where you've got some input values that trigger the pass way out, you know, and it's like you can't tune the input values enough to find that weird edge case? Will your solution, your flashlight, be able to illuminate these edge cases?
So do you mean during the training, or do you mean during the recognition? I'm not sure exactly what you mean. So if you give it a pattern and then it doesn't recognize that pattern, you're asking how do you learn it, or how do you figure out why it didn't recognize it?
When you're testing on the trained data set, say you're testing on the trained data set, there's a strange edge case that keeps appearing. And you're like, why is this appearing? Are you able to identify these edge cases in the trained data set?
Yeah, so we're able to tell you for every input. So I glossed over it really quick. For every input, we can tell you like every input pattern to that network. We can tell you which are the most contested inputs, which were inputs that were most important for that decision.
Right.
And we can point that out to you, as well as the patterns that the network is looking for. So we can give you the patterns the network is looking for. Then we can also give an input to the network and tell you which inputs were important for that decision, for that specific decision.
What is the patent status?
Yeah, so we have a patent pending on this, both here and Florida. How many, just out of curiosity, how many of you are engineers playing with AI? Let me step back. How many of you have trained an AI system before? And how many of you use AI in your business? And how many of you are interested in using AI in your business? Thank you.
Our next presenter, Joshua Nkwada, is the founder of AH3B, a non-profit dedicated to helping Ghanaians by providing portable water, helping children, and foster business. To achieve these goals, they manufacture a special moisturizer in vitamins. Joshua, could you come?
Yeah, I told him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I
So
see.
I'm
Yeah,
ready.
nice to meet you.
Alright. So
Good. You're
should I
quite
go?
good. So Nikki will be speaking after Joshua.
Okay, so really?
I think
I don't have that
he's
much
about
time.
to start. Yeah, you can. 1 minute. I'll tell.
I told them I have a hard stop at 6. So that's why they want
You
to
have
go
to leave early, right?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Well, let me read it late. We've had a couple of people cancel. We've had to move things around.
Are you the organizer?
One of the 4 organizers.
Oh, okay.
He's just pitching for 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
That
So
is-
I'm going to the restroom. Yeah, did I send you my presentation?
Yeah.
Make this sweet, simple, and short. Okay, so my name is Joshua Nkwada from Ghana. I've been in the US for 5 years. I have a beautiful family, wife, and 2 kids. Okay, so we run a nonprofit, and the name of the nonprofit is AHEB, but it's spelled AH3B. It comes from the Hebrew word AHEB, which means to laugh. Basically, the purpose of our nonprofit is to laugh Ghanaians by giving them affordable water, help the children on the street, take them off the street by having an education center that would get them into school and teach them something to keep back to society. And then the third mission is to foster business. And so in doing that, we decided to go back to Ghana, go to the village, go and harvest, share fruits, get the nuts, and then make shea butter from it. And so we did that. So we were in Ghana for 4 months, and we just came back. And I'm like sad right now because yesterday I got a call from Ghana that my father passed away. And so it's like very, very sad to like hear it because we were in Ghana a month ago and just came back, and it's like we have to go back. So I'm like in shock. So I'll just make it short. So basically, we just want to help my people out, and this is how we're doing it. And we're doing shea butter because it's something that is going to help everybody. For babies, the best moisturizer, so smooth on your hair and skin. It's like anti-aging, and everything. So I wanted to show you the shea treatment. It's not coming up. So how many of us here use body butter or any kind of lotion for your hair or body? Okay. And then how many don't use anything? Like you just take a shower and you good. Oh wow. I guess I mean the truth is like some of us have oils that just like take care of itself. So you don't need anybody butter. But I'll recommend all of you to get one, if you haven't, because it like what shea butter does, like the raw shea butter is it like multiplies your skin cells and then like your hair cells and everything, so it keeps it young and baby. Okay, good. So I'm gonna go here. Okay, so yeah, that's my family over there, wife and 2 kids. Oh, the pictures are small. So that's a shea tree. That's a branch right there. It's not too big, and then that's a little nut. And this is us here, and them making the shea butter. And this is like a forest of shea, of like shea tree right here. Yeah. And again, that's my wife and kids. Let me get the other picture too. So these kids here, right here, we just took this shot. These kids, so these are the people what we're doing, like we're selling shea butter to raise funds to help these people out. 51% of whatever you buy goes back to help these people out. So this is what these kids do. They don't go to school. They just on the boat that a master has, and they just go fish for them all day. And I think the oldest was 13 or so.
From Sarah.
Yeah.
Could be from her secretary, Sarah.
And so yeah, so here you can see I'm here with the kids.
Could not find it right away.
With some kids, and then my wife is also with some kids. So yeah, and so this is our website, and you could just go and read our blog for more information. Yeah, so that's the family. Yeah, we've been married for 4 years now.
I don't have it.
Right. So yeah, so my dad in the picture over there, on my left-hand side, the very side. Thank you very much. Any questions for me?
How did you go about setting a price for your different products, or how did you determine like the valuation of it?
Okay, so we go to the village, and the shepherd, the women go and handpick it and make it for us, and so they give us a value of what they make, and so we pay for that, and then we factor in that price, and then we buy the containers, and then my wife designed the labels, and then we printed all that, so then we factor all that price in it, plus shipping. I mean, in this case, we bought it from Ghana, so it's still shipping.
Except has to offline, SC has a hard edge. Thank you. Thank you, Joshua.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. SC Moadi is a technology visionary, entrepreneur, and investor. She's a founding partner of Mighty Capital, a Silicon Valley venture capital firm, and Products That Count, one of the largest communities of product managers, leaders, and founders in the world. Previously, SC built products that billions of people use at Facebook, Nokia, and Electronic Arts. She's the author of bestseller Mobilized, an insider's guide to the business and the future of connected technology. And I have a copy of her book here. SC will share the secrets of fundraising strategies that make investors love you. Without further delay, please welcome SC.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's very nice to be here. So thanks for the very nice introduction. I'm here to talk about funding, and as a reformed entrepreneur, I talk about funding the way I talk about building products. So can we get the presentation? Yes, so next slide. And next slide. Yes, so you guys know this guy, I'm sure. The way that we are raising money today in Silicon Valley is primarily driven by what I call the Facebook effect, which is that basically what we've learned is you don't really need a degree to be a successful business owner. You don't really need to sell your product either. You just build it and they will come. And then you don't really need to pay attention to your investors because they're just providing money after all, and you're really the star of the show. So that's the current MO. And I'm here to give you the bad news that this is not how it works in reality. This is really an exception. So if we can move to the next slide. When you look at the number of people who are building companies and who do not have a degree, you see a stat that says like 15%. Do you want to move to the next one, Idol? 15% of Fortune 500 CEOs are without a degree. But then when you look at the next slide and you look at the total pool of business owners, you see that actually half of them own a degree. So if you compare apple to apple, right, your chance of becoming a successful CEO if you have a degree versus your chance of becoming a successful CEO if you don't have a degree, actually your chances with a degree are 6 times larger. So that's on the next slide. So it actually pays to study. So my first advice is keep calm and study hard, which is on the next slide. Yeah, so we're in a university here. It's actually a good place to be successful if you want to be an entrepreneur. The next thing, and so next slide please, is we've learned that motto of build it and they will come, right? We don't need to do any marketing, we don't need to sell products. I hear a lot of entrepreneurs pitch me that they've gotten X many customers and they haven't done any marketing or they don't have a salesperson. I'm like, well, why do you not care about generating revenue, right? It's what keeps your company going. So the reality is that if you move to the next slide, if you look at Wikipedia, the decacorns, right, the companies that are valued at 10 billion and more, all of them have a very, very solid business model. They sell the product to people or companies who pay them to have access or use that product. And if you look at, companies from that social era where you have this business model where it's free for all and then somebody else pays for it, actually it's not necessarily a successful business model when you look at the recent stock price of some of these companies. So the lesson here is, yes, go to the next slide. Get back to the basics of business, right? Sell something that people want to pay for, and if you want to build a successful business. Next one is, do you guys know one of the people that's on the screen? Yes, who's that?
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, yeah, absolutely. So, which of these two do you prefer to have as an investor?
The right.
Good. All right. So, for most people, Warren Buffett is a better investor than somebody who isn't as accomplished of an investor. Now, the thing is, if you go to the next slide, the way Warren Buffett makes investments is not like, hey, I like you, let's have coffee, and I'll write you a check. The way he does his investments is he invests for the success of the business over the long term. He does thorough due diligence. This is a slide showing his due diligence approach. So the lesson here is, if you go to the next slide. Oh, by the way, sorry, I forgot about this. There's a lot of talk that says, hey, investors should really have no say. The truth is, if you push that to the extreme, you end up in the kind of scandals that we went through a few years ago with Enron, where really your investors were totally shut off from your business, and that's not a good thing either. So the lesson here is, next slide, your investors are here to help you, and so you want to work with them and engage with them when you're building. So with sort of those mythbusters, if you go to the next slide, where we say, well, actually that Facebook model is not really replicable today. That was then, and the environment now is different. You need to work hard. You need to acquire customers that are going to pay you. You need to work with your investors and get smart money. Then what does it take to get that smart money? So moving to the next slide. The next one, let's skip this one. One more. Okay, so I mentioned that I was an entrepreneur before. I spent 12 years building products and companies before becoming an investor. So the way I think about fundraising is the way that I thought about building great products. So you guys are familiar with the 4 Ps of building products? Yeah, I see a few hands. So the 4 Ps are product, price, promotion, placement, and then I added a 5th one, which really honestly should be the first one, which is people. So I'm going to go through them one by one, but if you think of your company as a product, then what does it take for you to build a successful company as a parallel to what it takes to build a successful product? So let's start with the first one. Your product itself, when you're an entrepreneur, your product itself is your company. So next slide. Who knows what that is? What's that? It's kind of hard to read, right? It's a balance sheet.
Valuation.
Sorry?
Valuation.
It's a balance sheet. So on the left side of the balance sheet, you have assets, and on the right side, you have liabilities. Who here has familiarity with that kind of finance? Okay, most people. All right, so when you're a customer, you're buying a product, your purchase goes on what side of the balance sheet? Which side? Yeah, so it's assets, right? It gets added up there. Yes? Yeah, okay, so we're talking about 2 different sheets, right? But on the balance sheet, right, your payments? Correct. Yes. Okay, I see you have an expert here. So cash or receivable, but that goes on the asset side of your balance sheet, right? So it goes on the left side. Okay. Where does investors' money go? investors' dollars. That goes in equity, right? So that goes on the right side of your balance sheet. So the money you get from your investors and the money you get from your customers, that's two different things. They go on opposite sides of your balance sheet. So if your revenue, cash and receivable increases, then so does your equity, right? So the more money you make, the more money you make for your investors. So as an entrepreneur, when you're selling a product, you're also increasing the value of your company, as in you're increasing the value of your equity. Next slide. The way that I help entrepreneurs capture the value of their company is by giving them what I call a business equation. And it's very simple. It starts with economics 101, right? Revenue is volume times price. So volume is the number of transactions, and price is the revenue per transaction. Pretty easy to understand so far. Now, your number of transactions can be broken down into two different metrics if you go to the next slide, which depends on the velocity of your business. You can have a type of business that has few customers who buy very often from you, a business that has customers that come in, buy, and then go. You have to bring in a new customer every time. So if you go to the next slide and you think of how that affects your business equation, it means your business equation has three criteria. The first one is number of customers. The second one is number of transactions per customer. And the third one is revenue per transaction. And if you think of these three metrics as acquisition, engagement, and monetization, you have a very simple way to show your investors how you think about your company as a product, right? This is how I'm going to grow. I'm going to acquire customers this way. This is how I'm going to engage. I'm going to have repeat transactions this way. This is how I'm going to monetize. I'm going to price that way or this way. And that's a very simple way to explain to your investors how you plan to grow your business, as in grow the revenue, right? Grow the asset line in order to grow the equity, grow the other side of your balance sheet. Any question on that? Okay. All right. So moving to the next one. All right. So next one is the price. So this is a picture of my husband's motorbike. He races Ducatis and he loves doing that. And after he races, he goes to one of those kind of nice places and has a glass of wine by the fireplace. It's most of the time it's better because he's by himself and I'm not here to talk to him or anything. And so this is a picture of like him having an awesome time, right? Like after a race, relaxing by the fire. And that's an experience, right? That's not really a product. Now, if you go to the next slide, he also runs a Ducati dealership. So he sells those motorbikes. And if you look at on the next slide, the price of the bike, if you get into the dealership, price of the bike is a little sticker on the bike itself. Very different from the price of the experience on the previous slide, because when you walk out the door with your bike, the price that's on that little sticker is not the price you paid. You paid actually a lot more. You pay for maintenance, you pay for insurance, you pay for equipment, you pay for whatever change of tire, you pay for a lot of different things, right? And so the total cost of ownership of a motorbike is very different from the experience that you can get after a race relaxing, which is like priceless, or the list price, which is the sticker that you see on the bike when you get into the dealership. Well, it's exactly the same with your company. So when you're thinking and talking about your company, you're in that first stage. It's like it's a priceless experience. My company is already worth billions of dollars. When you think about like the reality of how much your company is worth, there's the valuation, and you can fight over that for a long time. But really, what you care about is the total cost of ownership, so valuation and terms. And the terms that you raise your money at matter a lot, and sometimes a lot more than your valuation. So a lot of times I see entrepreneurs who come to me and say, oh, I want to get this valuation or that percentage ownership. What actually really matters is that total cost of ownership, and it's getting agreement on what that is, as opposed to the list price, the valuation, and the price of the experience, the priceless experience, which is the perceived valuation. These are pictures of my husband racing, including a crash in the lower right corner. Okay, so the third P is promotion. So the question here is, when you have a product, how do you actually go after your customers? And you can do a lot of different things, right? But when it comes to reaching investors, there's really one thing that works, which is warm intros, right? Which means referrals in marketing speak. Referrals, like if you see what's on the slide here, this is the kind of intro that I give the companies that I've invested in when I want another investor to invest. It's like, hey, I invested in this company, it's a great deal, they're kicking ass, you should put your money in there too because you're gonna get a lot back. Everything else, I actually don't really recommend you do. Everything else being, for example, online marketing, i.e. posting your company on like a platform like your crowdfunding or AngelList and stuff like that. Why I don't recommend that? Because a lot of investors, especially when it comes to crowdfunding, are not very clear as to whether this is an instrument that's well accepted, well recognized, what are the risks. And we as investors take enough risk on your company and we don't want to take the financial risk. So a lot of times I see companies who come to me and say, hey, I've crowdfunded my equity. I'm like, well, sorry, because it's going to be very difficult for you to raise money from any professional investor. So online marketing, not necessarily a good idea for raising money. Second is cold calls. It's still on the same slide. Yeah, thanks. So cold calling, right? So calling investors or trying to contact them without a common connection. Don't recommend that. It's, you know, to give you some numbers, we get like 3,000 to 4,000 pitches every year, and we end up investing in like 5 or 7 companies. So if you cold call me, like, how am I going to know which is what? I don't recommend that you do that. Use your time rather to build mutual connections. And then the third marketing channel that you can use to reach your investors is to use a channel. So the intermediary, like an investment bank. And unless you're really, really late stage, or unless you're outside of Silicon Valley, I don't recommend that you use those channels either. Okay, so next slide. Okay, well, that's one of the biggest adjustments from being an entrepreneur to being an investor, which is, as an entrepreneur or as a product builder, all you say is yes. Yes, we can deliver on time. Yes, we can do this. Yes, we'll add that feature. Yes, we'll sell that extra stuff, right? And as an entrepreneur and as an investor, all you say is no. No, we're not going to invest. No, we're not going to invest. No, we're not going to invest. And so when you're pitching your company, basically, the minute you give an investor a reason to say no, they're going to say no. So when you go and try to raise money, you want to make sure you raise it for the right reasons, right? If you come and you say, hey, we're raising money because nobody wants to buy your product, our product, well, that's not a good reason for us to give you money, right? So make sure that when you pitch and you're raising money, the reason you're raising money is we're growing so fast, we have to support our growth or something like that, right? Don't give an investor a reason to say no. Okay, next one. So back when I was building products, I would segment my users. And I used to work in games, so I segmented them in 3 buckets. The whales, the dolphins, and the minnows. Do you guys have heard of segmentation? Raise your hand, yeah, some people? Okay. Well, investors, just the same. You have whales, you have dolphins, and you have minnows. I like to think we're the dolphins. But here's who they are. Like the whales, they write huge checks, right? They've raised $500 million fund or $1 billion fund. They don't write a check that's under $10 million. If you want to raise money from these folks, you want to know how you're going to spend $10 million at a minimum. And trust me, that's not an easy thing to do. If you don't know how you're going to spend $10 million, you don't want to raise $10 million because you're going to end up wasting it. And who's going to be affected is you in the first place. You're going to basically lose your own equity. Right? So whales, just like when you're in gaming, when you're whales, you want to treat them very carefully, make sure that you cater to them, make sure that you get them like very, very carefully. Same thing with investors. If you're going to get a whale, you're going to be, you know, at a lot of times at their mercy. You want to make sure that you can make them happy, keep them happy, because you don't want to have an unhappy whale on your cap table. Dolphins in a kind of a product world are the people who basically are your best advocates. They're the social butterfly. They're going to say, hey, you need to try this because it's awesome, or hey, I just got a magic sword and you know you should too, and so on and so forth. Same thing with your investors. When you get a dolphin, their success is your success. And so you want to make sure that you partner with them, that you use them as much as you can, because the more you become successful, the more they become successful, and vice versa. And so these are good investors to have because they're going to help you be successful. And then the minnows in gaming or in social, the minnows are basically 99% of your audience. They're just here for the show, right? So they gave you maybe as investors a little check, maybe they're an angel investors, and they're here because they're rooting for you, but they're not doing a lot for you, right? There's only so much they can do. They're like, yeah, go, go, go. You know, like minnows, like go, go, go. And you want them, you need them, but they're not the ones that are going to make your success all the way through. All right. Next slide. The last P, the fifth P, is the people. So the people is actually the most important part of a team when you're trying to raise money. And what you want here is really three things. And how I came up with this is I started a network called Founder Dating, which is matchmaking. If you're looking to start a company, you're looking for a co-founder, you went at the time to Founder Dating and they would help match you with a co-founder. Why I started this, by the way, because I was looking for a co-founder, and so guess who got first pick at, you know, finding their own co-founder? That was me, because I was the first line of defense there. So anyway, through that, I interviewed thousands, literally thousands of founders. And what I learned is if you want to find a great co-founder or have a great team, you need three things. The first one is you need a complementary skill set. You don't want to have a lot of redundancies on your team. You don't want all engineers. You don't want all business developers. You don't want all buddies who kind of do the same thing just because they're together. You want a complementary skill set. The second thing you want is you want compatible communication style. And what that means is you want people that you're going to be able to work with, because conflict's going to come up. You're going to have to change direction and so on and so forth. It's inevitable. And you want to make sure that this happens without too much relationship damage. And then the third thing you want is you want the same appetite for risk. And what that means is if you pair up with somebody who wants a quick flip, when you want to go IPO, when an offer to acquire your company comes to you and it's like 50 million, the guy who wants to flip is going to be like, great, this is it. Like I'm going to have 5 Ferraris and I'm going to spend my afternoons on the beach. And the woman who wants to go IPO is going to be like, are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. This is an insult. This is not good enough, right? And you really don't want that in a company situation. So you want the same appetite for risk. And I think that's all I had. So yeah, we have some time for questions if you guys have questions. The first person who asks a question can get a signed copy of my book. All right, here we go. So my partner and I have invested in over 30 companies over the last, I don't know, 10 something years in Silicon Valley.
So in your introduction, you said that you're investing into connected businesses. What are you most excited about in the connected business?
Yes, that's a great question. So we are excited about what I call the third wave of connected innovation on mobile. The first one was get a phone in every hand. The second one is collect data about everything and everyone. And the third one is now that you have that, like do something useful in like meaningful, important industries. So first, consumer health. So we look at, some digital health, medical devices, biotech. Second one is enterprise services. Everything that's going to go after like Salesforce or Marketo and Oracle. I mean, it's mind-boggling that there is not a strong mobile CRM, for example, right? And then the last one is infrastructure and infrastructure software. So what I see here is, for example, privacy and security. Like, people say, oh, I don't care, except, we have Equifax, we have the scandal around the election, and all of that, starts to add up. And so at some point, privacy and security is going to become really important. So that's an area where we're looking. Search, like how do you search for stuff on your mobile? It's like crazy that, we don't have a good search solution. And then stuff that go like after like a VMware, for example, because when you think about what is required to go from the big clunky smartphone to, glasses, earrings, clothes, watches, whatever, it's going to require like a whole, revolution around infrastructure.
Earlier you mentioned how connections with entrepreneurs. Let me wonder how I can phrase this question a little better. What advice would you give someone who is their main problem with their startup is connections within the VC world and not having those solid connections? What advice would you give about forming and making this connections?
Yeah, so that's basically most entrepreneurs' problem is if they want to raise money, they don't yet have a lot of connections to money. So, first of all, remember there are different types of investors, right? So when you're talking venture capital, you're talking either a dolphin or a whale. Do you already have enough minnows that can carry you there? So that's the first step, and you don't want to underestimate the power of these folks. The second thing is there's really two types of people that will make meaningful introductions. One is an investor to an investor. One is a non-investor to an investor, as in somebody who does not invest ever. You never want to ask somebody who invests and decided not to invest in your company to make a connection to an investor, right? Because obviously the first question that investor number 2 is going to ask investor number 1 is, great, thanks, did you invest? No, but you should, is not the answer you want.
So I guess to clarify my question a little bit, if I'm going after dolphins and I'm looking for that warm introduction, where are the avenues that I can be meeting those people that will make those introductions?
Right, so like I said, right, people who are not investors, people you've worked with in the past and do not invest ever, but know you and trust you and think you have something great, and they may know some dolphins. That's one avenue. So is find a minnow who's an investor and a reputable investor who's willing to make an introduction to a dolphin.
If you're a dolphin, right? You are a river number. Let's say if you're a dolphin, do they usually look at how many minnows you have? Because that would be the value to, okay, so many minnows have invested in our business and therefore limiting your investments.
Not really. It depends. It really depends on their investment philosophy. It's usually all over their website, and if it's not on their website, you can look at some of their portfolio company and see, how is that. The good investors, the one you want, the good dolphins, basically are making independent decisions. So they're going to be looking at the business fundamentals, kind of like what I was, sharing with you, like what's on your balance sheet, like your traction, your customers, and so on. All right, thanks you, everyone.
Sorry. After you, please.
Next, join us on Fireside Chat is SVE volunteer David Rano, Marketing Guru, and Stephen Backman. Stephen is an attorney specialized in patent law. He's also the founder of Backman Law Group. Stephen has 17 years of experience in software and hardware technology for startups. He will provide insights on intellectual property protection for startups.
Thanks. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
We're not, we don't bite, so if you want to come a bit closer, you'd be more than welcome. I'm very excited to be sitting here with Stephen Bachman. I think this session is going to be very interesting for founders and entrepreneurs. So Stephen's an IP attorney. I am. With 17 years, no less, of experience. So let's just begin with a few questions about your background. First one, Stephen, what made you decide to focus on startup IP? So a bit about me. So I was an engineer back in the day. I had a double E degree from San Jose State, and then I worked at National Semiconductor in their audio group. And I thought if I was going to be an engineer, that was a great sector to be an engineer in, because everybody was in a band. They sometimes left early and went mountain biking, so it was a lot of fun. But I realized I wanted to kind of broaden out and see different types of technology. So I went into patent law. And one thing I enjoyed about patent law is I did get to see lots of different technologies. But the different companies, a lot of the work back then, back in the 90s, early 2000s, was some of the bigger companies. So a lot of the startup culture here in Bay Area didn't really take off until 10, 15 years ago. And once I started working with startups, I mean, they don't always have as much money. In fact, usually they don't have as much money as a lot of bigger companies, but they're so passionate. Startups, entrepreneurs, live, breathe, and sleep their job. They're very passionate. They're very excited about their technology. So that's one of the reasons why I chose startups, is that they're just very passionate, very fun to work with. And also, after doing IP for startups for the last 12 years, my 17 years, I became very good at it. Doing IP for startups is a little bit different than doing IP for bigger companies, because you really need to develop the IP plan for different stages of the startup company as they move along. So at first, you're just maybe doing just a little bit of protection, if any, just to kind of satisfy the investors. Then you're potentially doing it for a merger. Then you're possibly, analyzing other companies you're going to take over. So there's a lot of different aspects to IP that's specific to a startup that's not necessarily applicable to other companies. And I just specialized in it and just kind of went with it. Very good. How do you work with your clients? Lots of different ways. So I'd say most of my clients are software startup companies here in the Bay Area. That said, I have some technologies I work with all over the country, in Utah, Texas, Massachusetts. Some companies in different countries. I work with some companies in Germany, one in Hungary, some in Czechoslovakia. So I prefer to work in person, and usually it starts off with just talking to them, communicating. What is it their technology is? How do they feel that they're different from their competitors, and really what do they want to accomplish? Sometimes patents and a big protection program doesn't make sense for everybody. A lot of times you just want to keep everything to yourself, like Google did with their search algorithm. That's never been patented, as well as the audio selection algorithm by Pandora. That's never been patented either. That's a trade secret, and sometimes that makes the most sense. So with my companies, with my clients, I usually just talk to them, find out what their goals are, lay out a plan that works for them and their goals and their budget, and then just see how they want to go from there. Sounds good. Thank you for that.
So let's begin with
Hello?
so let's begin.
Let's begin with an obvious question. Why would a founding team consider actual intellectual property protection? Well, let's take a step back and what are the different types of intellectual property protection? So there's patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Those are the three primary ones. So a patent would protect an invention, something you conceived of that has a utility, that does something, such as a mobile app, a server, or an actual physical product. A trademark protects the name that you give a product, like Coca-Cola for soda or Pepsi for soda. Those are names that can be trademarked. Copyright protection is like an original work of art, such as like a script or software code. Copyright protection is automatically granted to the user just by creating it. The rights are automatically generated. Trademarks are generated in common law, although you get additional protections if you file it. Patent protection, you only get those rights if you file it with the US Patent Office. So to come back to your question, why would a startup need intellectual property? There are three benefits of let's stick with patents, because I think that's the most common type of IP that startups usually go after. There's 3 reasons why a startup would acquire patent protection. One is to obtain investment. A lot of VCs, once you get to a seed stage or a Series A stage, they want to know that their investment, that the risk is going to be reduced. And one of the questions they ask, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, is it patent pending? You know, what's your IP plan? They usually don't require like a full IP audit. Usually, if you just have a patent application pending, you can say, yes, we have an application plan, we have patents pending, and that'll be the end of that. The second reason you might want to file for patent protection is if you're doing a joint project with another company. I worked with a late-stage startup. They had some wonderful technology, and they partnered with a company that made very popular cell phones. And it wasn't Samsung. As part of this partnership, they needed to give not over just their object code, but everything. You had complete access to all their technology. And what this big company did eventually was they had the object code, they had the source code. They eventually just reverse engineered it and took the code after a couple of years and implemented it on their own, because this client of mine didn't want to invest in IP early. So if you're going to partner with other companies, especially larger companies that have more resources than you want to at least have applications filed so you have some leverage over those partners. And the last reason why patents are beneficial to startups is it kind of puts other competitors in the space on notice that you have protection. And by that, it helps avoid lawsuits. The last thing a startup wants to do is spend any time or money with any attorney, really, but in particular with litigation, being sued. They don't want to be sued. So if you have patents pending, companies that are going to go to the trouble to sue you over patent infringement of their own patents are going to see that you have patents pending as well, and they realize it's probably just going to be a cross-license scenario. We're probably just going to at least give them pause in many cases.
Very interesting, thank you. So when should a startup consider intellectual property protection, especially given that startups have limited resources?
I would, as long as the technology, as long as you're in beta, you can put off any patent protection or IP protection for quite a while. I usually recommend my clients that those are the 3 reasons that I just mentioned that they would need IP protection: to attract investment before they enter in a contract with a third party, or if their market share, if their product is doing so well and really taking off that their market share is going to put other companies on notice because it's taking the business from them. Those are the 3 instances where you should consider patent protection. So I would recommend before you start talking to VCs, maybe 2 or 3 months before that, maybe speak with a patent attorney or at least do an internal audit of something that might be potentially protectable with some sort of IP. If you're going to enter into it like a joint development agreement with a company a few months before that, and if you think that your product is on the trail to really take a significant market share away from another company in your space that has significant resources, I would consider patent applications at least a year before you think they're really going to notice the difference and potentially come after you.
So from what I've heard, I'm not an expert, patent applications are time-consuming. I wonder, is there an easier way to do things, or do people just have to, grin and bear it?
So the U.S. Patent Office, is there anybody here from the U.S. Patent Office here? Good, let's talk about it. So they are a government agency, and it's probably not the highest morale there at that agency, and therefore they have a lot of turnover. And because they have so much turnover, there's a lot of training that goes along with new recruits. There's something, sometimes a case will get dropped by one examiner and needs to be reassigned. And just in general, they're underfunded. So they don't have enough examiners to get things through. Currently, most software patent applications, once they're filed, take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years to be examined. You can expect that it's going to take at least another 3 months to a year to get allowed, if it will, after that. So once you file a patent application, it's probably going to take anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5, maybe 3 years, through the normal process they offer. They do offer a way to expedite those applications. And for companies that have less than 500 people, which is most startups, it's basically costs an extra $1,400. So it's a big fee, but the first examination, instead of 18 months to 2 years, it'll happen within usually 4 to 6 months. So that's a pretty big turnaround for that fee. So what I tell my clients is that if they really have a core technology that they really want to get patented, not to just attract VC investment or not just to warn a potential collaborator that it's patent pending, but if they think they really need something patented, go ahead and apply the resources to the expedited examination.
Okay, good. So this is something I've always wondered in instances where I've had to sign an NDA myself. How effective are NDAs? What are your thoughts on pursuing legal action against large companies, especially for startups, which are perhaps on an early round of funding?
Yeah. NDAs look great on paper, but unfortunately they don't always do much good. The company, my client that I told you beforehand had an NDA, and in the long run, it didn't really do anything. NDAs are a way to basically see where your, say you call them your opponent, where your opponent's head is at. Will they sign the NDA before they talk to you or not? Almost all VCs, when I say almost, I mean all of them, they will refuse to sign an NDA. All VCs, just for liability, they're very risk averse. They don't know who they've talked to, who they're going to talk to. A better offer might come along later. So they're never going to sign an NDA. But as far as dealing with potential customers, potential collaborators, will they sign an NDA? Usually not. And even if they do, ultimately, there are some, it's a violation of contract if they do breach the NDA. Potentially with some remedies in trade secret, for trade secret regulations, but are they're very, I wouldn't rely on them. I would use them kind of like you put a beware of dog sign on your fence. It's a good visual deterrent, but ultimately it doesn't really do much good.
Interesting. Okay. So in that case, what guidelines do you have for founders who need to educate teammates and employees and so on in the importance of complying with NDAs and so forth? For example, I've heard in the past, after a meeting where you felt you might have disclosed something proprietary, you were at one stage advised to follow up with an email and letting people know that they had been exposed to some proprietary information and there was an NDA in place and so forth. Is that still relevant or not the case?
Yeah, so there doesn't always have, for an NDA, you basically need to express to the other side that, hey, I'm expressing confidential information to you. I expect that during this conversation it's going to be kept secret. The best way to do that is to hand them an NDA at the beginning of the meeting saying, we're going to talk about confidential information. I want you to keep it confidential. Please sign here. Sometimes you don't have the form. Sometimes you forget. Sometimes you didn't expect that you were going to talk about those things during the meeting until after you get back to the office, and then you're like, uh-oh, now what? So it is possible to send an email to the other side. The sooner the better, but definitely within that day, and say, thank you for the meeting. As I believe we discussed, it was my intention that everything I disclosed to you was confidential, and by proceeding with the meeting, it was my understanding that you understood that it was to be kept confidential by you. If you have any questions, please let me know. So an email after the fact will preserve a lot of the rights that an NDA will provide to you in a nice neat piece of paper. Again, NDAs aren't super enforceable. but it's, sending an email is better than nothing.
Sounds good. So shifting gears to talk about trademarks, one of the other forms of intellectual property. What are some of the steps that entrepreneurs should take when they decide, when they have an idea and want to trademark a specific name or terminologies?
Well, so a trademark, as I mentioned, protects the name for a particular project or service that you offer, or the name of your company. One of the most important things to do, and the easiest thing to do for that you can all do yourselves, is just go to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website and search for the mark and see if it's there. You don't want to just search for that name alone. You want to search for different variations of it. So, for example, if the mark was black shoe, like let's say black shoe technology, do different versions of black and shoe. Like spell shoe S-H-O-E, S-H-U. One word, two words. Black with B-L-A-C-K, B-L-A-K, B-L-K. Because anything that sounds similar and is associated with the same product could be determined to be, you could infringe those similar sounding or similar looking marks. So you want to make sure you do, a pretty broad search of different variations of whatever your mark is. Another thing you want to do, which I'm sure most of you already know, is one of the first things you do when you come up with a company name is get the URL or pick a URL, because that can be really tough and a very big hassle to go get it afterwards. After you filed your corporation generation statement, somebody else sees that application's been published and then they grab that URL, and then you have to try and get it back from them. The easiest way to do it is just pay them off, and they know they got you once you file a company name. So I'd say searching for the trademark name ahead of time and getting the URL that you want before you file for your corporation name are two big things.
Sounds good, thanks. Shifting gears again, what advice do you have for a founding team who find themselves on the wrong side of legal action, who may be being sued by a large company? What's the first thing they should do besides contacting someone like yourself, Steve?
I would say talk to them. Most big companies are not going to come after a startup because they feel threatened. Like I said, most companies are going to come after a startup if once you're later stage, once you're taking a part of their market share. I think it's pretty rare that a startup is approached by someone saying, cease and desist your activities. That may happen more often, not necessarily, I guess, with patents, but with your name, with your trademark name. And in that case, I would speak to them after you've done a little research. So determine where they are, exactly what their marks are, what their product is, and is there a way that you can narrow the focus of yours so you kind of can coexist. A lot of times they just don't want to be confused with you, and they don't want, they probably don't know much about you. So a lot of times if we get on the phone with them and talk to them, you can put them at ease saying, okay, well, actually this is all we're going to deal with. I think we can coexist. But as much as you don't want to hear it, it's probably best to have an attorney at least take a look at it with you after you've done the initial research and be there on that initial call.
Okay, very good. So I assume that some IP attorneys are better than others. How can a founder tell which is which, the good from the bad?
Right. Well, other than just going straight to my website, one way, I think, just ask questions and trust your gut. You want to make sure, like the previous speaker said, you want to make sure that, like the VC is a good fit for you. You want to make sure the IP training is a good fit for you. So ask questions such as, what's your technology background? And ask some specifics. If you're in, telecommunications, what telecommunication companies have you worked for? Are you working for any now? Can you tell us about some cases that you handle that give us, display some of your expertise? Ask about all their fees. What's the fee for drafting a patent application? What's the fee for doing hourly work? Please go through your list of all the fees, just so we're very clear on that. Another thing is to ask, who will I be dealing with? Because this is what happens a lot with bigger companies. Wilson Sonsini, Townsend & Townsend, a lot of these bigger firms, they'll meet with potential clients, especially startups, with some of the big name partners who are very experienced, very likable, and very knowledgeable. But once you sign up with them and ask for them to do work, you're probably not going to be seeing much of them again. They're going to be handing off work to some of the newer associates who will still charge you the same amount, but it doesn't cost the company as much to build them out to you. So one important question to ask is, who at your firm has expertise in my area, and who exactly will I be working with to develop my IP portfolio? Who will I be working with on a daily basis? So those are a few things to ask.
Excellent. Okay, well that's, we're almost out of time. So are there any topics we haven't covered that you would, or parting thoughts you would like to leave with the audience?
I did a presentation back in July to a software group, and it was what software startups need to know in 2017. And in that presentation, I listed some best practices as well as some pitfalls to avoid. So let me go over those very quickly. So some of the best practices are, your technology is probably more valuable than you realize, so the IP rights are going to be very valuable as well. Keep it a secret, because once you make your technology public, for example, describing it on your website or making presentations about it at conferences, that starts a 12-month clock, and once that 12-month clock expires, it's not patentable in the US. Once it's made public, it's not going to be patentable in foreign countries at all, but I think for startups, the most important geographical jurisdiction for your IP is going to be the US. So keep it a secret until you absolutely have to make it public. Another one is to make a plan. Talk to other CEOs, talk to your engineers, decide what is really novel that you want to protect, and then decide what do you really want to do with your IP. Most startups aren't going to develop technology and then sue their competitors. They would just want to focus on their product, get their traction, get their funding, scale up, and move on to their exit plan eventually. So most startups will want a defensive plan, not an offensive plan. So understand kind of what the differences are between an offensive and defensive plan, and then develop your IP plan accordingly. As far as things to avoid, just a couple things. With regards to, like I said, make sure you keep everything secret and tight to the vest. Make sure that you have employment agreements that assign IP to the company. And then also, if you have any sort of software, you're probably going to be using open source. Make sure you understand the licenses of those open source, what they require, and what the disclosure agreements, and make sure you're abiding by those agreements.
Okay, very good. Thanks for that. So that brings us to the end of this fireside chat. We're very lucky that Steve agreed to join us. You'll be around for a few minutes.
Absolutely.
So I would encourage you, if you have any questions about IP matters, seek out Stephen and have a chat. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David.
It's a long day. Even the microphone is giving up. Our next speaker is Michael Leibowitz, a marketing coach for Magnetic Mind Studio. Michael teaches business leaders how they can resonate with their customers and sell more by targeting the way our brains are wired to trust, engage, and buy. Michael, will you teach us here tonight?
All right, thank you, Nikki. Hi, everyone. We're going to spend a little bit of time getting this computer set up. Let me turn the TV.
My
spare one which I can use for some time.
Yeah, first because I think that I'm leaving.
Oh, you're leaving? Oh,
yeah. It's here. I can help. You convinced me. Can I your phone?
What's
Antonio. You live here?
Yeah, like off the bridge, Fremont.
All right.
San Jose.
All right, everyone. Hi. Thanks for sticking around. It's been a long day for a lot of us. So, we are going to change around a bit. We talked brains for a while. And specifically, how do we go from not knowing anything about your business or your product into a yes? So when you're talking to a VC, trying to get funding, or your end customer, you're trying to get a sale, how do we move from, I don't know who the hell you are, to I'm in? So that's the territory we're going to just explore. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself, so you know where I'm coming from. My name is Michael Leibowitz, and my areas of experience are in two fields. First is in brand strategy and product development. The other is in behavioral neurology. So what I'm going to share to you today is I combine these two experiences into a new understanding of the neurology behind successful brands. So now I work with founders and startups, business leaders, and marketing teams to show them how to create a brand that actually targets the way our brain is wired to make the decision to trust, to engage, and to buy into that territory. So I've already said the word brand a few times. I just want to clear something up about that word. A lot of people think of it differently. About your graphics. I'm not talking about your logo, I'm not talking about your website, I'm not talking about any of that. To me, I believe brand is only one thing. It's what your customer thinks you do. And that's it. Whatever they think you are, that's what you are. That is your brand. Which means the second you have a customer, the second you talk to someone about your business, you already have a brand. It actually lives in their mind, not in your business. So I want you to start taking control of that, because it's happening whether you're working on it or not. I want you to take control of your brand. I'm going to show you some tools that you can start doing that for your own company, for your own startup. So there's a big mistake I'm noticing that a lot of businesses make, is they think their job looks like this. Are you guys familiar with the dating game? Raise your hand if you've seen it before. You know what it is, right? Okay. So most businesses think their job is like the guys. They're trying to convince the woman to go on a date with them. Here are my qualifications. Pick me, pick me, pick me. Go on a date with me. And the business version of this, we're all familiar, it looks a little bit like this. Features and benefits. We take a lot of time to figure out what are our features and benefits. And then we have a little bit of pain because we've been told to identify the pain. Juicy, juicy pain, right? Well, this doesn't work. Is that your features and benefits, even the pain that you're addressing, they actually, when it comes to the decision of whether or not someone's going to buy whatever it is you're selling, it actually targets the wrong part of the brain. Your customer's actually making a different decision when they're deciding to buy. And it's this decision that has far more impact on whether or not they're going to buy it from you. The thing is, this decision is actually working behind the scenes. It's happening in secret. Your customer isn't even aware they're making it, and it happens lightning fast, about half a second or so. So how do you take control of that? How do you take control of a decision your customer is making, and they're not even aware they're making, and it's happening that fast? To answer that, we're going to have to actually look to an unlikely source. These guys right here. Turns out what's happening in the mind of Dees Goodell is actually key to understanding what's going on in the mind of your customer and the mind of any VC looking at your business when they are deciding to invest in you or when they are deciding to buy. So we're going to go a little bit deeper. here's a human brain. We're going to divide the brain up into two parts, human brain and the critter brain. This is a metaphor. Your brain isn't actually divided by this plain way, but it is a metaphor. It's a very useful one. The human brain does pretty much what we think a human brain does. This is where we do logic and reason. We do time up there and a whole bunch of other higher level thinking. But when it comes to this decision, the thing we need to know most about the human brain is that this is where we hold our identity, our sense of who we are in the world, in our community, our sense of ourselves, really. So that's the human brain. Critter brain, that's where the action is. Now, the critter brain does a lot of really good stuff. But from what we're talking about here, the thing to remember about the critter brain is that this is the part of you that's actually keeping you alive. It is only concerned with survival. Since a little bit after you were born, you have spent every single moment of your life, this part of your brain has been asking this question. Now, critter brain doesn't have language, that's in the human brain. But if it did have language, the question would sound like this. Am I dead? I don't know what happened. The question is, am I dead? And if the answer is no, or sorry, if the answer is no, and we presume we're still around to answer the question, the answer is no. The critter brain tells the rest of the brain, keep doing that. Whatever it is we're doing, it keeps us alive. And one of the primary ways the critter brain is working really hard to keep us alive, to make sure we are with like kind. And here's our gazelle. This is how our neurology has been designed. We seek out things, if you're a gazelle, or in the case of humans, we seek out people who are like kind, people who are like ourselves. Because this part of the brain, I don't want me to die. So things like me probably don't want me to die either. Makes sense, especially this part of the brain. This is very ancient neurology. Conversely, to this part of the brain, anything that isn't like kind is a potential threat to survival, a literal threat to survival. And the drive to be with like kind is so powerful that it actually overrides every other decision being made in the brain, no matter how good it seems like a good decision. This will override every single time. Because given a choice between logic and survival wins. Hands down. If I'm wrong in logic, that's a bummer. If I'm wrong in survival, that's it, game over. Survival wins every single time. So, the key is, this is the fundamental question that needs to be answered every single time, every decision, safe or not safe. This is at the core of every single decision you've ever made. Is it safe? Is it not safe? Is it like kind? Is it not like kind? This right here, folks, this is the neurology of trust. This is the operation that, when it comes to how we feel about something, we feel it as trust. This is what's really going on. Is your critter brain feeling safe or not safe? So, how does your business go into the safe category? How is it that you can make sure that someone else's critter brain sees your business as safe? Well, for that, we actually have to look to the human brain. What it's looking for is our identity, our sense of who we are. And it works like this. We have the world outside, that's on the far left. Your customer takes in everything that you're communicating as a sensory experience. That's going to be very important to understand. We take it in as a sensory experience. It's the critter brain that captures this and says, with whatever you are communicating, looks at that, looks at the identity up above in the human brain and says, do these match? Is this like kind? And whichever way that goes, good or bad, the human brain then puts a story on it, rationalizes the decision that the critter brain just made, based on this one simple yes or no question. And then we output into behavior and communication. And of course, the behavior we're looking for is, yes, I'm going to buy that. This is a gatekeeper step. We have to do this. There's no way our neurology cannot do this. The critter brain has to answer this question before it will do anything else in any decision. Now, as we grow up, we operationalize and we automate a lot of this, so you don't feel like you're doing this all the time. But I guarantee you it is happening, especially when someone who's unfamiliar with your product, with your business, sees it for the first time. And by the way, I'm using my word, this is the only part you have any control over, sensory experience. That's it, that's all you get. to make this go your way. This is how we pick our friends. There's a lot of like kind happening here, isn't there? It's also how we decide which groups we associate with. Explains a lot about what's going on here, doesn't it? These two right now are operating on pure identity level like kind. The Venn diagram of what they share is so small right now. That one group that says, you're not like kind. The critter brain is literally thinking that I will die if I join that side. That's how powerful this is. This neurology was designed to make sure we stay alive, so we use it to discern who we keep around us, just like the gazelle. But then time passes, and we learn to make things, and then we form civilizations, and then an industrial revolution happens, and eventually an information age, and here we are. But this is still the only neurology we have. And we're still using it when we decide what we buy. Just as it was designed to decide who we include in our life, we're using it to decide what we include in our life. And here's the big thing that we need to understand. This is where it's all coming to. Your features and benefits only speak to the human brain. There are logical arguments, and only the human brain will capture them and understand them. But as you now know, that's not the part making the decision, is it? It's coming too late in the whole system. We need to be talking directly to the critter brain. And the way this neurology is designed is, no matter what you are communicating, whatever you're giving the critter in your communication, if it's not talking to the critter brain, your customer's making it up. We have to have that information to make this like kind, not like kind determination. When you leave it up to your customer to figure out what that is, chances are they're saying no. It's just too unsafe to take a risk for this part of the brain. So the big task for all of us, when you want to get funding from a VC or you want to actually make a sale, is to give the critter brain the high-level information it needs to make this decision. The easier you make this decision for the critter brain, the faster and the easier you get to yes. You make it difficult, chances are you're getting no's. So how do we do that? What is the specific information that the critter brain needs to make this identity level match? Well, here they are. Sorry, let me go back. We do have something that does that. It's brand. In fact, the things we call brand are simply the tools that we've noticed, intuited, and practiced at, and they work. Turns out they're just the things that talk to the critter brain. We just didn't know this neurology took place, so we called it brand. This is actually, your brand actually is the only thing you have that talks directly to the critter brain. And the type of brand, the elements of a brand that actually go into a critter brain are right here. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit on the slide. So what this means is we need to know who our business is, just as much as we need to know what it does. But what it does, when you're communicating this is what my business does, you're talking to the human brain. But we also need to communicate, this is who my business is. When your customer sees your business for the first time, they are actually using the same neurology as when they meet another person. To this part of the brain, your business is actually another person. Even your product is seen as a piece of another person. So we have to feed this neurology, we have to give it what it wants to get to this yes, to give it the information it needs. So finally, here they are. Belief, meaning, belonging, and uniqueness. Now, when we are including people in our life, we need a lot more than this. But it seems with businesses, with the brands, this is good. This is what we need. Now, I'm going to really quickly go over them each one at a time. Belief. What do you value? What does your business value? Trust me, the critter brain loves beliefs. It's like candy. This is what really lets me know, like, if you can express a belief that your customer says, oh, I believe the same thing, even on a other than conscious level, they are in. No matter what your features and benefits are, they are in. Meaning, why is that important? This reflects on the belief. Why is that important? Why is that belief important? Meaning gives belief context. And we have belonging. With whom do I fit? Another way to ask this, who are the type of people that would share that belief in that meeting? You figure that out, you have figured out everything you need to know about your audience. You just go market to them, because chances are really high they share that belief in meeting, they're going to light up that critter brain. They are going to love it. And it makes your marketing efforts so much more focused and so much more clean. You spend a lot less money trying to find out where should I go market myself. These are not demographics. Demographics are logic. No one bought anything because, oh, gee, I'm 50 years old. I guess I should buy this now. That's human brain level stuff. We're talking about belonging. I'm the type of person who belongs here. Uniqueness. What is a unique experience you offer? Now, most businesses make a mistake of thinking their uniqueness is a feature or benefit. We're the fastest at this. Do this more efficiently. Again, human brain level communication. The critter brain is looking for an experience. What is the experience you are offering? And these things are on, and then, sorry, wrong way. And these things are on dials. You don't have to have them dialed up to 11 all the time. Based on the communication, based on where your customer is and how much they know you, you dial them up and down. But you just have to know where they are and how to communicate them well. So let's wrap it all up. We are always looking for like kind. Always, 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 no exceptions. We are wired. This is the source code of all human beings, I just showed you. Cannot not do that. In this case, to get to like kind, you have to have a brand identity. In fact, those two words actually mean the same thing. Once you have that, you are going to resonate with your belonging group, and that creates safety in the critter brain. And only when the brain says safe will you get a sale. And that's made up of belief, meaning, belonging, and uniqueness. So finally, to wrap it up, your job as founders, as business owners, is not to convince your customers to buy your stuff. Your job is to find the people who share your belief and meaning, and then show them what you got. It'll make your life so much easier. That website right there, on that website you'll find that ebook, which is basically the condensed version of this entire talk, including a little bit more information about the 4 parts, the belief, meaning, belonging, and uniqueness. Go into examples there and show you how it works. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go into that right now. So. All right, thank you so much, everyone. It's been a pleasure to teach you all about this. If you have time, anyone have any questions? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, just like a critter. Yes, this is the right one. Have you heard about the amygdala? A lot of people talk about the amygdala right now. Critter brain is actually made up of the amygdala and some mammalian level neurology. And so that's just a cute little name that helps to keep it the basis of neurology it is. It's not quite human level, it's more like a little neurology we had since before we went to human. Anyone else? Yeah. Yeah.
And those people know inherently that ventures, particularly startup ventures, are inherently risky.
Right.
How do you get over that hump of creating a notion of safety in an inherently unsafe environment?
Yeah, it's actually a different kind of safety. The safety over, am I spending my money wisely or not, is actually a human level sort of safety concern. You can imagine going to a VC and saying, here's all the data, this is what we do, and here's how big the market is, and we're going to serve them in this way, and data, 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 data. Okay, fine, that's all human level communication. But imagine if you came to that VC and you said, here's what our company believes, and here's the meaning of that belief in the lives of the people who share that. This is what it means to them. And we've identified this belonging group that shares this belief and meaning, and we know that it's a big group because these are the kind of people that read these magazines and are doing these activities. And here's another piece that they have in their group. This is who they're hanging out with, online or in real life. And we know this is a market because this is how many people do those things. Not speculating on the big market, you're actually got the data for that. And the experience that these people want to have is this, and they're not getting it in the context of our business. That's a much more powerful story. You tell that story to a VC, and if their career brain resonates with that, risk, that money risk goes way, way down. I'm not saying it goes away. I'm just saying the critter brain just went, hell yeah. Right? All right, anything else? All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
We'll have patient demo starting in like 10 minutes.
No, these guys, yeah, I know. These are there, nobody has voted. So I guess whoever is present,
Oh, yeah, I think it's good. That go for it, bro. If you are saying yes, it's okay.
More than
but you know, I got to meet and take
more is very even in the morning. Yeah, so I don't think there is any I don't know.
we are waiting
public and
Understood. So how is this food?
So,
given?
Yeah, so just prepare something and then
You pay on one, and you can find that some so how is it different from sitcom that or because other people no they have parties no they compare there like many things no we are facing then all things that
Excuse me. Is there a Wi-Fi password?
Wi-Fi password is written on the, if you go straight, then on the right hand side, it's written on the window behind the door.
Okay. Thank you very much.
But right here, I think it's not because refresh the XSL certificate. You know what it is? But you can directly go to GGP instead of this. No, because it is refreshing the also. That's fine.
So, what's the format for the pitch?
Yeah, I'm just getting ready for that. I don't think there is any investor here left.
We should say.
Yes, I don't think there are more than 10.
Let's go to express as a hard timeline.
I think we'll just have them pitch together. Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah, and there's more investors.
She told me he was going to come. This is only one.
My graduate school.
He's welcome.
So you're gonna use the best pitch and give them the prize or something?
No, actually,
We can do that.
no, do that. I don't, I personally don't like it. No, but we can do that.
Perhaps they want to be
Yeah, so I can do one thing.
totally, I'm sure they rehearsed.
I can help them get round ratings. I have the mechanism to do that. Yeah,
Crowd ratings?
everybody votes. No, but they'll be able to do it only if they have filled that match before. If they haven't, then they can't. So I think looking at just basic, let's keep it simple and have from a queue and then
But what if there was 10 people in the audience, each one is doing a pitch, you know, for themselves. We'll have a tie.
Events around the client that
First, we find 3 people to be a judge. We find Stephen. Like 2 more people. Those 2 more, 3 people. We get 3 people. Let's talk about who. Mike? Well, I'm one of the hosts.
No, I know what that would
Stephen might want to be. We need to get more chairs.
come one at a time.
It's okay.
Come
I
in
can
a
check
queue,
out. Like we can have
from
fun
a
with
queue,
it.
come and
I think we should just have someone doing chairs for 2 judges on the stage. So there's how many out of 10? How many people are pitching?
We record that.
Each one's 5 minutes, that's an hour. Do you know how many? Maybe we can ask people to go into pitch, come and register. So people are it's always going to be.
if there is anybody who has a fixed up or his presentation, they can come and give it to me and show it to me.
And then for them, we have a sequence. I think you should come and register with me. I'll go make an announcement if you like, and say if you want to pitch. Please be sure to get your own.
But now we are focusing on brands. So basically brands will be there. Association events, everything that is separate.
Did I see a show of hands if you're planning to pitch tonight?
So you've got celebration San Jose.
One,
San Jose.
Yeah,
No, we are.
anybody else?
But
4?
we.
Any advance on 4? Could I ask then, you go to the back, real quick, just give your company name to a tool, and if you want to show any slides or whatnot, just make sure you email us back to this is a tool. Again, that's that as well.
Are they demoing? On stage.
Yeah, I love to.
I remember your emails. Thank you very much. I think so.
Yeah, could you send me your pitch deck in an email?
I already have it.
And
Do you have it? I have it here. I'll just use it here. Is that okay?
yeah, you can use your laptop too.
That'd be great.
Fine, yeah.
That's a good, I used to be in hospitality
Yeah.
hotels, so
Yeah, then-
we always look into events.
in
Do
case
you have
somebody-
the adapter there available for if we have our laptop?
My laptop is here
I have my laptop, but I don't know if is there an adapter there to
for power.
to display it on the
Yeah,
screen.
this one is there. Will it work? Yeah,
I do. I need a top.
I hope it works.
I do have that.
So we can, yeah.
I don't think mine has that.
You don't have will that help?
What's that?
It's a converter. I think it's. See, with this.
I don't know, is it, does it This is
Probably not.
All about this.
Oh, no.
yeah, this is the
I
new,
have it, but let me check.
this is the new USB-C.
No, but we'll be like, we almost get my definition. That's like awareness of themselves, how to manage yourself.
So are we gonna hook our own machines up here for the pitch? Are we gonna hook up our own machines up here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody has. I have.
Oh, perfect. Oh, wonderful.
I
Thank
will-
you.
I will take it back.
Okay, yeah, I'll give it to you when after.
Do you have any other needs?
So do you need any other information?
In the beginning, sometimes in some few. I love it. A lot of work is one of the biggest things. And a lot of work to do. So. Yeah, because we had against Jeremy in Manchester, we just won on Syria after semester. But yeah, but we don't want to go further.
I'm looking at your connector. I think you better.
We have to scale up to almost 1.5. And we're going to finish it.
So I sent you
So you don't actually going to the events and setting up, like? No. No, you just actually I only like to work with them because right now I've been helping with the process of unboxing drivers, so now we just would like to, we are looking to some set pages, invest our marketing and like this together, like to get more. Because Instagram, no, Instagram is really nothing. Oh, you are already in there? Yeah, what we do is we post. Yeah. We post inspirational. Inspiration inspire my customers. We finish that part and so far I have because they are super focused on the hashtag. Everything that you do is on the hashtag. So if you see automation, automation. Like anything we post would be automated and commenting on certain hashtags. So yeah, and like we have members, Brazilian, it's all about mentality. It's all about me and Michael, we started. We work together as a non-profit organization. So we played with the world like 7 years ago. 100. No, we have just the proper. No, but you can maintain. Yeah. Now it's all about the skill.
You want to leave?
No, I'm not leaving. I'm just trying to see what's the order.
Yeah, let them come and, yeah, listen to us.
Okay, who do we have for you first?
Let's have Russ go first because he's in the hurry.
Yeah, Ross is going to go first.
Yeah.
Is he here?
He was
Yes,
here.
I think he's over there on the right.
Yeah.
You just take some of the rules, like we have 5 minutes to present, 2 minutes for questions, and then, okay. And you can also introduce the panel. I think if you're an investor, there's a marketer, and there's a lot of attorney. I think that's pretty cool, but okay. So you're full first.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the final session of what's proven to be a very long day. We appreciate you sticking it out to the end. Hopefully it won't be a bitter one. And this is now our pitch session. I think we have 4, possibly 5 companies or founders pitching. The format is going to be 5 minutes, and we ask that the people who are pitching stick to that amount of time, just so we can squeeze in all of the pitches. And Nikki is going to be rigorously enforcing the 5 minutes. She has a whip in her bag, but she might whip out as needed. And then we'll have 2 minutes of questions. We have a panel here, a very interesting panel. We have a Mike, who's an investor, Michael, who's a marketer, and we have Stephen, who's an IP attorney. So it's a very interesting blend, and I think that's a nice skill set of people to be judging the pitches. So we'll give the panel 2 minutes time for questions at the end. So any comments or questions on the format? Is everybody clear on how we're going to do things? Okay, cool. So let's start. I'd like to ask Russ from Cargo Chief to kick things off.
I'll do it like this. I'm familiar with the materials. Should we go ahead and start? Great, thank you very much. Appreciate the chance to go first. So let me tell you a little bit about Cargo Chief. We're solving the problem of tens of thousands of freight brokers who are doing business the old-fashioned way, with phone calls and emails and even faxes. Cargo Chief started off as a tech-enabled freight brokerage, and we developed a lot of technology that made our teams far more productive. And then last year, we started saying, hey, I want to buy that from you. So we have pivoted to being now a data, SaaS, and tools provider to freight brokerages, and we raised $1 million. Actually, just got a term sheet 2 hours ago. So what's our marketplace? There are 500,000 trucking companies, not trucks, but trucking companies. They're super fragmented, low barriers to entry. 90% of them are using whiteboard Excel to run their business. There's 20,000 freight brokers, again, low barriers to entries, very fragmented. And freight spends about $75 billion, big spend. And there's about 100,000 businesses that buy freight services. So we've developed so much data that people in the industry say they've never seen as much data as this. I'm going to quickly run through it. We've captured 15 million postings of load boards. These are like Craigslist sites for trucking capacity. We're the only known entity that has an auto email reader to read blast capacity emails from these carriers. The only way to receive these carriers and communicate their capacity. We have the governmental inspection data, so we can profile each carrier. We're starting to integrate with the large carriers. We're also have a free transportation management system for the smaller carriers, so we can deeply understand what they're doing. In front of us is the interactive voice response system and Google AdWords, as well as partnering with ELD providers. The customer comes to us and says, I have a load, say, from Oakland to Dallas through an API or our website. We do all this searching through all this data and advanced algorithms and kick back out. These are right now the trucks available in Dallas, in Oakland that will go to Dallas. The next product is our booking assistant. We help the brokerage by, on their behalf, communicating to a variety of carriers their new loads that they have, not only through email, but through audio as well as through text. We're unaware of anyone who does this. The final product here is a signed rate confirmation. The next product is there's a bunch of details between the load manager, between the client, the brokerage, and the carrier's dispatcher and the carrier's driver. By us handling all these details with the computer, we're greatly enhancing the productivity of these people's, the people that work at the brokerage. They might handle 3 times as many loads as they do today. That improves their EBITDA 2 to 3x. It's a short and quick pitch. We are raising $1 million. We're also looking for a technical co-founder. Our existing one had moved back to India. His dad was sick. And there's 4 main reasons why our existing investors, 90% of them, have reinvested in the company. First, it's a great marketplace, hundreds of thousands of buyers and sellers. It's low risk as an extension of a well-received service. We have large and small customers requesting our service, and 28% of the trucks are empty. They're hungry in this $300 billion marketplace. The business model is very disruptive. First, we're the source of information for capacity. That's important in any industry, especially one that's as large as fragmented as ours. Additionally, we are unlocking this hidden capacity of all the small carriers that represent 80% of the trucks. That's a big deal for the industry. By helping our clients improve their productivity, we're helping them improve their profitability, and as a result, they're going to be very sticky, and we get cash flow positive $10 million. It's very efficient. We have a number of technical advantages. Some are patented, some are patent pending, others are award winning. We have about 10 industry awards and 2 patents. First, we have more data on trucking capacity than anyone else we know. We think it'll be hard for someone else to catch us. Our technology makes our clients more efficient, but also enhances their service level in a service industry. That's important. Our algorithms analyze data that you and I couldn't possibly. There's so much data, and our customers have an incentive to send us their pricing and past data, which makes us the pricing center for the industry. The timing is great now. Millennials are coming into the industry, as well as costs have come down. There's a mandate that's requiring all carriers to act and to add a device to their truck called electronic logging, so they can act with us. And we have nearly universal demand. That's my 5 minutes.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind to do so. Okay, so we'll have 2 minutes of questions. Russ, we still need you. Thank you. So do you have any questions for us? So that was a great presentation. So one question I have is so do you find any challenges marketing or employing it in different geographical areas? I mean, how do your clients hear about you and your technology?
So we have a super focused customer base. It is freight brokers. We're very tight with the Transportation Intermediaries Association. This is the TIA, and they're an association of freight brokerages. I'm actually personal friends with the CEO of that association group, and they're helping us introduce us to more and more freight brokers. We also know from the FMCSA's database who are all 20,000 freight brokers, so we need super targeted.
I got a bunch of questions, but I'll answer a few of them. So what's important to you, Russ? What's important to you about having this solution? Not what's important to your customers, but what's important to you about having this solution? Does that make sense?
Yes, well, I think you're asking why are we doing this, right? Part of it for me is what makes someone successful isn't so much the house and their cars, but what they're doing for society. Truck drivers, being a truck driver is the #1 job in terms of number of people in 40 states. There's something like 3 million truck drivers. we can help now more truck drivers spend time at home with their family because we're helping them not wait at a truck stop overnight waiting for a load. That's a big deal.
Are you communicating that? Sure.
Russ, do you find that you're doing partial loads, full loads, short haul, long haul? And so what is that segment that you're actually gaining traction in?
So we're focused on full truckload. We'll do dry van, reefer, flatbed. We're not looking for specialized, not LTL. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Russ. I'd like to welcome John from RoboSig.
First of all, I'm John Rashapi, and I am a founder, an investor, and an advisor to RoboSig. So I wear a lot of hats there. I've been working with these guys for about a year now. Let me tell you a little bit about RoboSig. We're a platform for trading foreign exchange. And specifically, a SaaS platform for trading foreign exchange as a commodity. So we treat foreign exchange like you would trade value futures or anything else for that matter, although we trade strictly in cash accounts. In a nutshell, we're really trying to find, and we have found, alpha. Right? Everyone's looking for alpha. All investors are always looking for alpha, right? High returns, low risk, and we can document that we actually produce that. We've been doing it for over 2.5 years in the real world, not back test data. So the problems that we solve for our clients, they would come in two classes. The first class is the general class of if you are a hedge fund, if you're a large bank, if you're a corporate treasury function, you're sitting on short-term cash right now. What do you do with that cash? Stocks, all-time high, relatively high risk. Bonds, same thing. Returns on short-term money market, for example, is virtually zero. So what do you do with your cash? And how do you do that in a safe way, but return a high yield? So that problem exists across the board in a lot of industries, and people are sitting on a lot of cash. And I just read an interesting article about Apple sitting on almost 250 billion in cash. And they are now the largest bondholder in the world. And that's because they're trying to find a solution to this problem. By the way, their bonds yield 1.73% right now, which is not really good. So that's the general problem. Investors are looking for alpha, they're looking for high returns at relatively low risk. When you specifically talk about FX, part of the problem is that historically it's been very difficult for human traders to be able to trade effectively. The market runs 6 by 24. And if you're a human trader, you basically got to be awake 24 hours a day to watch your portfolio, which tends to not be very healthy. So it's a difficult business to be in as a human trader. And that leads to lots of problems. Most of the funds that trade FX or use FX as a commodity do what they call global macro. So they're trying to project long-term trends in the direction of currencies relative to each other, because currencies trade in pairs. That is a very difficult proposition, and I'll show you in a moment that it's actually not doable. Or put it this way, it's not doable in maybe. So that's the general problem. So the solution that we come up with is to use components of artificial intelligence, specifically algos and some machine learning as part of our solution and our platform to trade FX. I won't go into all the details. First of all, I couldn't if I wanted to. I'm not the algo guy. But I will just say that what RoboSafe has found is relationships between currency pairs. And they created this thing called the synthetic basket of multiple currencies, that individual currencies may move in any one direction, but when they looked at those, the G8 currencies and put them in a basket, there is a definitive pattern that they identified that is tradable. And that's how they're producing their alpha returns. And I'll show you what those returns look like in a minute. They've also included a risk manager and controls so that an institutional investor could use this. This is not a tool that's that's tailored for an individual investor who just wants to trade FX. And there's tons of guys out there that do that. What do? We actually generate three types of signals. We have price data, risk data, and what we call spread guard to make sure we get good executions. Here's the returns. So our latest release of the product has yielded about 15.5% ROI at a 3.3 Sharpe ratio, which is world class. Comparing that to institutional, and these aren't small institutions, these are Goldman's, Amundi, some of the big guys in the industry. Over a 3-year period, the best of that group yielded a net 10% return. Some of these guys are yielding negative. So you ask yourself, why would anybody ever invest in that? It's crazy. Well, it's because assets are looking for other classes to diversify and hedge themselves. I'll talk about the management team later if you guys want me to. We've got actual customers who are trading right now. These are live customers, and they're trading real money. Our business model is a combination of platform fees, but it's mostly back-end performance loaded. That's where we make our money. Status is that the application is fully up and running. We've got customers on board. We've raised about 1.6 million in seed to this point in time in 2 different tranches. And what are we asking for? We are asking for another $500,000 in additional seed to take this thing to the point where, frankly, we expect to be just about at a break even. So that's my overview.
Very good.
Thanks, John. Questions for John?
John, great presentation.
So one question I have is, what if there's a down market? Do you foresee that would affect the demand for your product?
It's a really good question. And when you say a down market, first of all, when you talk about down markets, you typically talk in terms of things like stock market, bond market, etc. Because FX is not correlated at all to those markets, currencies fluctuate regardless of whether the market's up or the market's down. All they're playing is on those fluctuations. So it doesn't matter where the market moves. And in fact, if you look historically at what they've done, their best month was literally the month after the market crashed in 2008. They made the most money that they had made.
So if you're trading in a basket of G8s, how can somebody copy that? I mean, how defensible is it?
So I guess there's really 2 answers to that. At some level, I don't think we have enough hubris to think that we're the only smart guys in the world, right? So could somebody theoretically copy that? I suppose that they could. It's in the, if you will, the secret sauce and the algos that dictated how they put those baskets together and how they actually trade them and when they trade them. And I didn't get into the founders, but their background is they've all been on the Merck. They've been trading FX for 20 years. So they basically institutionalized all that learning that they had over that course of 20 years. So is it doable? I suppose anything is doable, but it would not be easy, and nobody's done it to this point.
Among the market that would buy this, what's the main reason why someone wouldn't engage in this? What's the barrier to entry?
When you say barrier to entry from somebody coming into the market or somebody actually jumping onto it? I think that there's 2 issues that we run into. One is I can't believe it, it's too good to be true. People look at the returns and they go, this can't be possible. And in fact, the the people that we've talked to who have more experience in actually trading FX don't believe it, or they're the most skeptical because in many instances they've actually tried to build similar solutions and failed. So therefore, if I tried to build it and failed, how could you have done it? That means you're smarter than me, right? So there's this healthy skepticism that takes a while to get over. The other one is, in some institutions, our value proposition to some extent is not only the return, but it's also the cost reduction in human traders. So if you look at most of these trading shops, they've got small armies of traders. So basically what we're saying is, look, if you use our solution, those guys all go away. And in some instances, like particularly in dealing with some of the folks we have in the Far East, there's a real cultural reluctance to jump into a technology that replaces human beings.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. That's fantastic. Next up, I'd like to welcome Sridhar from Welcome Systems to the stage.
Thanks, David. Okay. I'm trying to move mountains, but thanks, David. That was a good welcome, and my company's name is Welcome Systems. So my name is Sridhar Virtula. I'm the CEO of Welcome Systems. So what we do is build custom TV channels for Airbnb hosts. So what it entails is basically when you go as a guest, when you go into the house, you turn on the TV. There's a video of the host saying, "Hey, I'm Sridhar. Welcome to my house. We are in the Soho neighborhood, and what are your hobbies?" or whatever is the welcome message. And then you go into amenities and say, "No one ever knows how to turn on the hot tub in any of these places." So you can have a video, turn on the button left and turn right. And hey, by the way, there's parking on 4th, but don't go there before 6 o'clock because 6th Street and Market is like that. And recommendation: go check out John's Pizza, is a killer calzone and things like that. So that is the host's own video. And what we do is we build hundreds of videos for each city. So for San Francisco, we have about 100 videos. So when a host signs with us, he gives the property. We have our own content management system, which based on the geolocation of the property, we generate videos about the property, what's in the walkable distance neighborhood in the city, and day trips. So typically in a house, we deploy about 20 different videos. So the host can choose which ones. If he doesn't like Lombard Street for whatever reason, he can say, "No, I don't want to show it in my property." So, so what's the problem we are solving? The Airbnb, the success came from people don't want to live in an ivory tower. They want to live like a local. So it originally started with people shaking hands, giving them a hug and welcoming them to the house. But the reality now is 60% of the properties are remote hosts. So you go to a lockbox and it's very personal, and it impacts the host ratings, because if you identify with the host, you tend to give a higher rating than not. And on the local businesses, they send coupons to your houses. But what about the 35 million people who come to San Francisco every year? Is there a platform to market specifically to the travelers? So that's the potential revenue. And the last point is international travelers. I found it from hosts, because the entry cities like San Francisco, LA, lot of Chinese travelers, international travelers, and they say, the host say, I don't know, I can't speak Mandarin. So all our videos are closed caption, so that we transport it into different languages, or to closed caption for different languages. So they turn on and it's in Mandarin, and of course we charge for those extra services. So typically, this is how on Roku it looks. So by the host, and maybe I'll jump to the video. Let's see if it plays. So I'll not go through the whole videos in detail, but this. Is audio? No audio? Okay. So this is Esther. She's in Dallas City. She's saying, hey, I'm Esther, and there's a video of her, and she likes books, so she's saying, I like writing books and things like that. So there are a bunch of videos of the host. Most of the hosts, at a certain point, but I bring most of the hosts on Airbnb, 45, 50-year-old woman, and it really hits, the touches some 15 minutes of fame thing, they love it. And that said, even
1 minute.
Okay, and so we have city videos. Just as an example, I'll show a city video of what type of videos we generate per city. So this is Pier 39. We make videos all 30 seconds because most of us have innovation. So 30 to 40 seconds, and there are 20, 30 of them per neighborhood. And we shot all these videos. I did license agreements with tourism department and stuff. So we literally have tens of thousands of videos for California. So we did some beta trials, and I started February, and turns out about 30 people consume about 30 minutes per day. So the typical pattern is morning they walk about 4 minutes, because we have Google Analytics on every remote touch, and they're just browsing. Evening 8:30 is when they consume about 32 minutes, and plan the next day. So we also have a mobile app for the host, so he can sign up on the mobile app. The moment he gives the address, we give all the geocoded videos, and then we can use the camera, take a recording, put filters on it, make it brighter, and things like that. And on the backend side, we built a pretty comprehensive content management system, so you can search all the content. So back to, I'll skip sake of time. So Airbnb is currently about 4 million rooms. It's expected to go to about 27 million rooms, and we covered that. And from my experience, prior to this, worked for a company called WatchNet, which is pretty much million rooms in San Francisco, in US. So I was a VP of product management and partnerships there. Before I left, I did the big, I said, I wrote myself out of a job because I closed all the product there and went into partnerships and did a Chromecast deal, worked 8 months with Google, so we get Chromecast and we get rooms. So for 30 years, whatever they developed, I kind of killed it and turned the company around. So then I said, what's the next big hotel? Airbnb, and that's where I am. That's it. Thank you.
Any questions for Stephen? Very interesting product and a great presentation. So do you have any traction with, and who would be your clients? Would it be like service providers like Airbnb, or would it be the individual renters or city organizations like you?
We did. We actually, in one of the conferences like this, I ran into the Airbnb founder and he spent 15 minutes with us. But no, Airbnb is not our main customer. So we are going to the Airbnb hosts. So they sign up with us, and then they can continuously communicate with the hosts. So I showed only the video on Roku, but if there's a web app, they can. Usually Airbnb, if you book, there's SMS back and forth, so you can send a URL and there's a web app. I don't believe in mobile apps because no one downloads them. I went through with a million hotels, million hotel TV saying download, no one did download it. So I went the mobile app route. Host has a mobile app because he's recording. And it's not only Airbnb, VRBO, anyone can use it. But Airbnb sounds nice, so I use that.
We're out of time.
So on the one renting on Airbnb, how do I know this exists and how do I know to access it when I get to the room?
The question is on the guest. Yeah, so the tough challenge of bringing the host, there are 4 approaches. So what I learned from hotels. The first is when you sign up with Airbnb, as I said, typically the host sends a message, text message, email, and one of them would be a link. So on the mobile app, if he has multiple property, he goes to the individual property, it generates a URL, and he can post it, or right from there, it invokes the SMS message or Airbnb. So you can, along with the text message, by the way, check out this information is very useful, because if you want to go to Alcatraz, you need to book 3 weeks before, so they can watch that. And it has all the welcome system branding. And on the Roku, at home, we are trying Post-its, the tech cards, which never really work because they get lost. What works in the hotels was we have a plastic, not here, the keychain, which basically says for host recommendation, go to the welcome app on the TV. So we can bring that way. And the last thing is the screensaver on Roku. We take out the screensaver in Roku, and it says for host recommendations, go check out. And once I installed that, the hit rate went much higher than.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Next up, I'd like to welcome Franklin from SQL Greece.
I'm Franklin Yamamoto. My company is SQL Greece. SQL Greece is application performance monitoring for SQL Server, your database, Microsoft database engine offering. Application performance monitoring, APM, is all about making sure that database server is performing, responding rapidly. Usually, 90% of the time when you have a performance issue, it's related to the database engine. What we do is we make sure that A, it's healthy, B, if something's currently going on with it, we can narrow down and show you what's wrong with it, so you can actually go and dive it, fix the problem. And C, if something happened the night before that somebody was around to actually dig into and figure out what the problem was, you can actually address it after the fact so it doesn't happen again. APM tools are a $3.3 billion market. They're expected to grow to $5.2 billion by 2021. The interesting thing about that market is most of the people in it right now are all on-premise or full install type situations. I'm actually doing a cloud SaaS variation of that, where it's actually a subscription model. It'll actually work on-premise as well. However, all the back-end infrastructure is still in the cloud and still subscription-based. Right now, there's nobody else that is doing a SQL Server deep dive APM in the cloud. Anyone that claims to be doing APM in the cloud right now is doing it very, very much on the surface. They can show you what's running wrong, but they can't tell you why it's running wrong. I started this in September 2013, roughly. Just kind of had the idea. Microsoft came out with their Microsoft had just come out with their Cloud SQL offering. They built the cloud version of SQL Server. Nobody could monitor it nobody was able to monitoring it at that point, so I thought I'll be the first one to try it. The product was kind of immature as far as their cloud offering. There were a lot of books missing as far as being able to make a real product out of it. So then I started targeting their full versions, which was their 2008 through now they're on 2016. February 2016 was actually my real launch where I took my beta customers, converted them over. They became paying customers at that point. Over the course of the past year, up until June, it was kind of slow growth. I was working with people I knew in the past, basic friendly customers, onboarding them and selling to them. In June, I really started going after trying to open up the market to people I don't know and trying to drive new activity into the business. So monitor everything from SQL 2008 up through 2016, as well as Azure's offering. I went back and now I do actually support that. Also Amazon RDS. I'm using a lot of the newest interfaces available, so my monitoring overhead is super low, it's less than 1%. You don't see me on the server, it's almost zero footprint. The fact that I have all the cloud backend, it makes it really easy for an install. So you can bring it up, shut it down real quickly, move the license, grants the floating license model. The core collection engine is super flexible. I pick up a lot of information with a very small footprint. At the same time, I'm also grabbing things like execution plans, all the key things that you really need to diagnose a problem, whether it's happening now or after the fact. The other thing is it's dynamically deployed, so I could actually push updates to some extent without the customer ever seeing it, and I can add features without the customer even knowing. They just get everyone's always on 1 of 2 versions. It's the previous release or the current release, and I can control what versions are on, so I don't end up with a nightmare of trying to maintain code across all sorts of customers. In fact, I think at this point I've done 24 releases, and no one's had to do a reinstall or touch anything. As far as they were concerned, nothing ever changed, other than they got new features. Let's see. So one piece I'm doing is the collection of all this raw information that I give you visualizations. So you can go back and look for what your hotspots were and proactively fix things that aren't running as well as they should. But at the same time, sitting on top of that is an event engine, which actually looks for anomalies and what's happening. For the most part, it's configurable. It's actually very configurable, so you don't get false positives.
1 minute.
When there's a system like this, you start getting a lot of false positives. People don't trust it, they won't use it. So all the configuration options are there. Oh, 1 minute. All the configuration options are there to actually control, what race events are not. Paying customers. One of our first customers used 2 of our competitors. They couldn't get to the bottom of the problem. They finally went with me, and they've been happy with us ever since. Some of the advantages of the cloud offering, it's not just the technology and the buzzword. This does open up some opportunities. One of the things that I've done as a consultant is I go in and I work with some of my customers to buy third-party software. When a third-party software vendor starts having issues, they have no visibility to that customer's environment. With a tool like this, that third-party software vendor could install it and actually use that to help diagnose these problems with a floating license. The other thing is this allows for mass deployments. It's all the infrastructure that you need to actually monitor this on the back end is dynamically deployed as PaaS in the cloud. So you can actually just deploy it really quickly.
Good. Thank you.
So that's kind of my wrap up right there.
Questions for Franklin? So I know there are some pretty big players in this space, and this space has really taken off recently. How do you, other than the narrow kind of niche that your technology applies to, is there any other way that you differentiate yourself?
Is a lot more accurate than my competitors. So that's one of the 2 key pieces of the technology that really make it good at collecting. It's the collecting historical execution plans and the query level weighted analysis. Right now, there's only one competitor that does that. It's those 2 pieces of technology. Outside of that, the query level weighted analysis, there is one other competitor that has that, but they don't have historical execution plans. Also super expensive, so you're paying for that. And at the same time, the piece the very last piece of my presentation is why am I here? one is to help grow the business, maybe find something, the marketing and sales. But if I were ever to take money, it would be to get one piece, which is a CLR profile, which is the piece that sits on the app tier. And at that point, I'm going after something like New Relic. And if you start looking at guys like New Relic, the thing they're missing is they got a great CLR profile, and they got a great database. The database is a really weak spot. You don't have that. And that's where most of the issues are.
Frankly, you love your product. That's obvious. You know a lot about it. From an investor standpoint, I think you need to move off talking about the product because you're really comfortable talking about that and talk more about the business. So how do you go to market? How do you sell it? How do you make money? What's the cost of customer acquisition? So I want to know as an investor, for you. So not talking, got it. Big problem. You got a cool solution. Tell me the business side.
So,
and you don't have time for a whole lot of it, so make it quick.
So my approach to marketing, since I've really been trying to push this, is market by getting embedded within SQL Server user group, the community. So one of the things I started doing is a lot more social media. Blog posts, really good content. It's not marketing related. It's pure, how do you fix this on your own? The only thing is people, once they start using that information, they're going to see that information is only good for a point in time. Unless you have a history of what happened overnight, or when things were great, when things look good, you're not going to be able to see that. And what I'm finding is people are reading those articles, and I'm getting a lot more and more readers, and
What do you charge?
There's 3 pricing tiers I can get there. $79 per month, $99 per month, or $119 per month. So, and my fixed costs are relatively low, and the costs per those, if I figure per instance, I think I was looking at, I think the margin on it was like 80%. So.
From Team Job Fund, join us.
So I'm Janet, I'm the founder of Team Job Find, and we are a company that matches teenagers with odd jobs in the neighborhood. So think babysitting, pet sitting, yard work, bringing your mail when you're on vacation, party helpers, that type of thing. Teens today are much different than they were when I was a kid. I was able to take a part-time job in my town and play varsity sports and still make honor roll. Teens today are working really hard, taking classes. They play sports year-round, or maybe an instrument that they're practicing an hour a day. So this leaves little time for an actual scheduled job, which I think as adults realize that that's something that's important when you're growing up, to learn that responsibility. They don't want to work. They want to buy their Lululemon pants. They want to go to Starbucks with their friends and sit around and drink hot chocolate and talk about their weekend. But they don't have a choice of how to do this, since they can't schedule those part-time jobs. And in addition to this, I think a sense of neighborhood has been lost. Kids go to different schools. Their neighbors might go to one school, they go to a private school. They come home from school, they change into their soccer clothes, and they're off playing sports. So we don't even know that there's a teen down the street that could maybe take our mail in when we go on vacation. At the same time, people like myself, super busy professionals who have that task list that's growing. We always think on the weekend we're going to be able to go knock a few of those things off of our list, and God forbid, maybe we want to go on a date night with our spouse and leave our kids with a babysitter. but it's hard for us to have time to do that, or we either don't, or we end up paying high TaskRabbit rates to have some stranger come in and move something for us that we just don't have the hands to do. So Team JobFind really solves both of these problems. We have launched an app that it's an iOS app that launched about a month ago. Just to kind of talk you through it real quick, we pride ourselves on being a safe marketplace. So all of our job posters they have a background check done. Teams are vetted as well. They are required to have a recommendation, and parents are involved every step of the way. Once they're both activated, it's easy for them to post a job and teams to pick it up. Everything is handled within the app. They can message each other back and forth once it's been assigned. They also, they actually start the job through the app. If they notify that they're here, the time is calculated during that. When they're done, they click on Done the app. The job poster is, their credit card is charged, and the money is deposited directly into the team's bank account. As a result, you have a clean garage, a beautifully manicured yard, and you're relaxed, and your teams are, they've got money in their hands, they're earning their own money to buy their own things. They have the underlying social benefits of learning responsibility, the value of the dollar, all those things that we really want our teams to learn. The team, I come from about 10 years at Apple as a project manager, and my advisors, a couple of them are also from Apple. And the developer of the app is my interim CTO. So again, we're on a mission to create a safe marketplace that does not exist today. We're just launching right here in Palo Alto and hope to raise money so that we can hire the team and expand nationwide.
Thanks, Janet. Any questions for Janet?
So what's the traction currently? And then the second related to that is, how do you differ from Nextdoor?
So we launched about a month ago. We have about 150 users so far. I've piggybacked off of Nextdoor. A lot of people are posting there, but it's hard for people to find those when somebody posts, I babysit, and then 3 weeks go by and the person's like, shoot, I saw somebody on Nextdoor that babysits. Well, this is right there for them. So kind of piggybacking off of them to let people know about it. I'm working closely with the schools here in Palo Alto to get build that community so that there's a trust and there's a knowledge that this app is out there.
So let's say you launch, and you're piggybacking off of Nextdoor, and they go, let's do our own version of this, which is highly likely. So how are you going to make sure that you are the choice? Like, what plans do you have to sort of fend off competition when it really takes off? Because that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think having 3 teenagers of my own and also being a busy professional, I know the market, and I know I have years of experience at Apple customer support, and I'm really focusing on the safety factor. I want this to be a community thing. There's so much more to it than just getting a teenager a job. So my plan is to just be true to myself and keep focusing on that. And I think when I talk to people and they sense that in me, that they know that that's what my company is about too.
Great presentation. So what is the revenue model? Is it like subscription based or?
Right now we're doing 25%. So the job posters pay $15 an hour and the teams get the 12, and we get the difference.
Okay, good. Thanks, Janet. That was excellent. And last but not least, I'd like to invite Rochelle from Louis Club.
that was just.
Yeah, all right, good. Hi guys, thank you guys for sticking back. So my name is Rashad, I'm the founder of Louis Club. And to tell you what Louis Club is about, let me tell you a personal story, right? So meet Louis, there's a little picture. So Louis is my dog, he's adorable as you can see. And so my wife and I, we got Louis about 2 years ago when he was just a puppy. And we quickly realized that one of the hardest things about having a dog is actually when you have to leave your dog and travel, right? And so obviously that was heartbreaking. And typically what people do is what we did is we found a great dog hotel in Sunnyvale, which is where we live. And we also tried a paid sitter. We found online great reviews. We took the dog in their home. We weren't totally satisfied with either experience. We found that the solutions were really expensive, $50 or more per night for your dog, so you're almost paying for an extra plane ticket. And we just felt that there was a sense of personal connection that was missing to the person taking care of your dog, which is important for us, right? And so there's a sad dog meme, and we weren't having fun, Louis wasn't having fun. And so something cool happened. We connected. At the time, my wife worked at Google, and they have a mailing group of dog owners. And so we connected with one of them. They had a dog. We met. Our dogs got along, became friends, and we over time started exchanging dog sitting. And probably some of you guys do this with your friends, but we don't have family in the area, so this was new to us, and it worked out really great, right? So that's a happy dog, and so life was good. And so Louis Club is really about trying to help other people who are in the same position. And so Louis Club was launched about 9 months ago, and what it is today, it's a web platform, it's a social platform, so what you'd expect: profiles, search, messaging, and ways for people to connect. We focus on we put a focus on compatibility, so we're trying to help. It's almost like a dating site. You have a dog, he has specific needs or she has specific needs. We're trying to help you find good matches. And secondly, it's also a trusted community, right? And so we're verifying everyone that joins the community. We've got a review and reference system, and so it's a reputation-based community.
Makes sense.
And so what's the traction so far? What have we done? So we launched in January with just a sign-up form. We got up to, in June and July, got our first 100 days of dog sitting done on the platform. And in August, we hit 500 members. And along the way, we got our first 2 hires as well. And it's Rachel and Priya, they're sitting in the audience there. And so as of today, we've crossed 700 members. And by the way, we're just local in the SF Bay area right now. We've done 300 nights of dog sitting exchange. And on average, every member that's actually used Louis Club and boarded their dog, they've saved $650 in dog sitter fees. So that's the value we've created. And by the way, our customers love us. We've got 90% 5-star reviews and the rest 4-star for everyone that's actually used the service for their dog. So how do we make money, right? And so if it wasn't clear, it's a community where people are helping each other. They're not paying each other. It's not a jobs marketplace. And so the way we make money, it's a freemium model. Right now, most things are free, but you're limited on how many people you can contact. Unless you pay an annual subscription fee of $60 for dog owners or $20 for people who don't have dogs. And by the way, I forgot to cover this, but while we started off as a dog sitting exchange, we over time got interest from people who don't have dogs. Either their dogs have passed away or they grew up with dogs and they're just too busy, but they want to have that company in their life. So we expanded the platform to allow those people on. And so for them, the subscription fee is $20 a year. It's very minimal. And we introduced a paid plan in July, so fairly recently, and we've got about 3 to 4% of the people paying. Our target is to get that up to 20% over 12 months. And the way that we're going to do this is, number one, introduce pet insurance and liability insurance, which is something that we've spoken to customers and they value and they're willing to pay for.
and then just, over time, reduce the amount of benefits on the free plan and transfer them over to the premium plan. And you're wondering, well, is this going to work? And we feel confident that it will. So let me give you an example. So while nobody's validated a similar model in the US, there's a company called Borrow My Doggy in the UK. They started about 5 years ago. Very similar model. Right now they make $5 million a year and have 600,000 users in the UK. And we think we can do better. And so 5x many people, 9x many dog owners. And so there's, simply the market potential is just much larger in the US for this product. And our product is much more dog owner centric, right? So it caters to the dog owner versus their product is much more borrower centric, someone who doesn't have a dog. And so we feel that we're better suited to compete in the US market. And finally, only 1% of the dogs actually have their own health insurance in the US. That number is 25% in the UK. So we feel that we can monetize this product better in the US as well. And why am I here? What are we looking for? And so obviously we want to, moving forward, immediately purchase the insurance policy that I talked about. We want to improve our web apps and get iOS apps out there, get more channels to acquire customers. We want to grow in 2 more cities because one of our theories is that a product like this will do better in a city where people are more price sensitive and less willing to pay for many of the on-demand services that are out there for pet sitting today. So think of like a San Diego or an Austin where you have just a higher population of families, especially with like one person not working. They're going to be more interested in a product that saves them money, but takes a bit more of their time. And finally, we're approaching 1,000 users, so we want to get to 10,000 users in each of the 3 cities we'll be in. And to do this, we're looking for technical co-founders. So we have a team of 3. I'm the only developer right now. So we're looking for someone who can, really help us improve our tech. We're looking for around $300,000 in just an initial angel or seed round to help us meet the goals that I stated. And I thank you guys for listening. Questions? Yeah.
Questions for Richard?
Questions? Okay, that's the first. Thanks very much. That's excellent. Okay, so since we're having a pitch competition, the judges and I will huddle for 2 or 3 minutes and select a winner. So if you don't mind hanging out here, Atul has told me he wants to practice his stand-up routine. So I'd like to invite Atul to come and tell you some jokes. I'm just kidding. All the judges and I are huddling. Is there anybody who'd like to come up to the stage and make any comments or whatnot? Keep people entertained, tell some jokes, and pass the microphone around? No? Okay, just give us a few seconds. We'll be right back.
I'll entertain you guys. I haven't done this routine in a long time, but let's do it. So, first time I came to US was the first time I got on a plane. So, up to an international plane. So, I got in there, they said put the seatbelt, and I didn't know how to put the seatbelt. Moving fast, and then I tried different combinations and finally I made a big knot and tied it up. So I landed in US, and this was Christmas Eve. Supposed to get down in Oakland, so I got down in Oakland. Christmas Eve, nothing was open, it's dark. I go out, and everything was written in Chinese. Where did I land? store open, and all the people there only speak Chinese. I got down in the taxi guy dropped me in Oakland, Chinatown. So I started wondering which country did I land in? US, the people have to speak English, right? And anyway, I was coming back to the hotel room, and two dudes asked me something I didn't understand. I told them, as dumb as I am, I said, "Oh, I'm new to this country. People experience in Oakland downtown." So next day, this guy is becoming a danger to himself. They took me out, took to one of the employees, took me home and stayed there. So anyway, I worked there for some time, and then I keep on working. So I didn't know about allergies, the pollen allergies, and one of the guys in the secretariat, they were smoking, and he was coughing and sneezing. I said, "What is this?" I said, "The pollen, it gives allergies." Then I started wondering, these want to fuck each other, why are they fucking us in between? So, pollen, if you know what is pollen is. So, okay, that's fine.
Okay, great. Thanks for the entertainment. The judges, after much haggling and bribes being paid, have decided on a winner. We're just doing the one winner. In my opinion, all the presentations were very good, I think. So, kudos, hats off to everybody who presented. There's no losers tonight, just one winner. Unfortunately, as we're a purely volunteer organization, there's no cash reward. It's just the public affirmation. But before traditions of keeping everybody on the knife edge until I announce, I want to first of all thank everybody here for coming and joining us. And for those of you who have been here since the beginning of the day, it's been a long day, and we really appreciate you to sticking through to the end. The second thing is I want to thank our judges, because up until an hour ago they had no idea they were going to be co-opted into judging, and probably we would have left earlier. Maybe I should say probably, but perhaps we would have left earlier had they not had to be up on stage. So Mike, thank you very much, Michael and Stephen. Thanks for sticking with us. If any of the founders want to come up and get some specific feedback, I'd invite you to do that one-on-one after we finish. We have the panel again is an interesting one. We have an investor, we have a marketer, we have an IP attorney, so that can give you a nice blend of feedback. So that's all I have for you tonight, and the winner is no longer here. Round of applause. Thanks very much. Tool, do we have anything else to do today from people go?
Yeah.
Okay, he's doing the cutthroat sign. Again, thanks very much for coming in. Hope you found today very productive. See Atul or myself afterwards for feedback. Give us feedback. It's our first time putting on this event. We plan to do more. If there are things you love, tell us. If there are things you hated, tell us. So, thanks very much.
No jokes.
No nonsense, una chapada. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Basically, you expose them right now. Then I think but you know that well.
Okay, I'm gonna take off.
Yeah, me too.
And you keep cleaning up?
Yeah, cleaning up and leaving.
Who's cleaning up?